Welcome back to Pre-Algebra Chapter 10, Section 3 in this book. And one of the things that really is traditionally part of pre-algebra is a little geometry. So we're going to do a little geometry. Your book tries to do a lot of geometry, and we're not going to do a lot of geometry. We're going to save some geometry for year after next. Next year you'll do Algebra 1, and the year after that I want you to do geometry. Now a lot of people who homeschool do a math curriculum, a couple of different ones, but what they do is instead of taking a year for geometry like the curriculum I use, they do what's called spiraling it in. They keep adding a little geometry here and there the way this book does. You learn a little algebra and then you learn a little geometry, a little algebra, a little geometry. As a tutor who has helped people do with test prep for the ACT, the SAT, the college entrance exams, the people who do the that spirals geometry into algebra like Saxon end up not knowing their geometry. We get to start practicing for these tests, they don't know a thing. So I don't think it works with the way the brain works. The brain works for you to file things that go together in a memory file, and it's to here, there, and everywhere. Brilliant kids, super smart kids, did not know their geometry at all at the end of it being just spiraled in. So I really advise you to do a geometry class, and I'm giving you one free on YouTube using this book, so do it. You will have a much better score if you will do the class and not just spiral it in. Alright, that was my little sales pitch for geometry. Don't do it after this one. After this one you need to do this book. So this is next, Algebra 1, then Geometry, then Algebra 2, the green book. So you're going to do light blue and green, then red, blue, then green. Alright, so we're going to talk about two shapes that we talked about last time. Two kinds of quadrilaterals, parallelograms where opposite sides are parallel, and trapezoids. They only have one set of opposite sides parallel and one set of sides not parallel. So first of all, areas, if you were going to get the area of a rectangle, here is a rectangle, and its area is, say it's a room, and we need to know how much shag carpet to buy for our room. Shag carpet's back, baby, just like the 70s, oh yeah. So we're going to buy shag carpet for our rectangle room. So how we get it is length times width. The length of the room times the width of the room, and by tradition these are written in cursive. Or if it's in a printed book, it's italicized. So that's why you learn cursive. You always wondered why? There you go. There you have it. Length times width. Now, if you know this formula, length times width, you can figure out all the formulas for area of everything as long as it's not a circle. You can pretty much figure out areas. And I'll give you an example. Okay, so a parallelogram looks like this, and we're going to figure out its formula for area. So this is a rectangle. And if we were in class, I'd give you a 3x5 note card, and I would tell you to use your scissors and cut off the corner. So you're going to cut off the corner, and then I would tell you to pick it up and set it over here. And now do you see what you have? A parallelogram. Did you get rid of any of the area of your rectangle? Nope. Every piece of it is in your new shape, your parallelogram. So here it is. And so won't the area be the same? We didn't get rid of any area, we just moved it around. So it is the same. But we don't call it length times width anymore. We call it base times height. And the reason why we do that is because people get confused about what is the height that you're supposed to use. They're pretty good with the base. This side of my thing is 8. But the height is how tall it is straight across at a right angle to the base. It is not that or that. Those are slant heights and they're longer. If you use those, you'll get the wrong answer. You have to use the base, and then perpendicular to it is the height. So if we were going to get the height of this parallelogram, area of a parallelogram is base times height, it would be equal to 6 times 8. What, 6 times 8? It's one of the fun ones because it rhymes. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 6 is 36. You get to cheer them. Alright, so 6 times 8 is 48. One of the fun multiplication ones. Alright, now what about, that was a parallelogram, what about the trapezoid? Well, it is also the same formula, okay? But instead of having one base, it has two. Because I could take my trapezoid and I could turn it over where the big one's on top and the little base is on bottom. Do you see? Those are the same thing. So what do I use for my base times height? What you do is you average them. Do you remember how to take an average? You add up how many things you have and then you divide by how many you have. Well, I have two bases and I'm going to add them together and divide by 2. And that's where I'm going to get the base from. It's going to be an average base and then multiplied by the height. And once again, it's not the slant height, it is the across perpendicular height. Not slant height. I'll give you the wrong answer, it's too big. So this is how I think of this formula. You add the bases, you divide by 2, you multiply by height. It's actually the same thing mathematically as the way the book writes it. But to divide by 2 is the same thing as multiply by a half. So your book does it 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times height. It's the same thing, but I like to think of it this way. Add them up, divide by 2, then multiply by height. I don't have to deal with fractions. And you know, deep in their hearts, everybody except this boy I taught last year named Michael hates fractions, and Michael loves fractions, so I don't want to discourage his love of fractions. But the rest of us aren't crazy about them, at least. All right, so here I have a trapezoid, and its bases are 5 and 7, and its height is 4. So I'm going to make it look like theirs. I did 1/2, 5 plus 7 is times 4, 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 times a half is the same thing as dividing by 2, so it's 6. And here's another one that rhymes. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, I really like those 6s that you get that rhyme. Alright, so 6 times 4 is 24, and that's my area of my trapezoid. That is all I want you to understand from this, and all I want you to be able to do. If the book goes any further than that, just ignore it. Just keep moving along. Next we're going to talk about circles. So come back for circles. Alright? Math is great.